Oh, hello, my friends. Well, I've been, I'm an alternative thinker when it comes to the thinkings of the lore and the story so far, and how I interpret everything. Now, thanks to Fontaine and all the lovely reading material and extra lore that we've gotten, I have kind of come up with a model on how I believe the world actually is. Now, in the very beginning, there was the celestial beings that actually watched over the universe and the cosmos. And when chaos comes, they come in and kind of create order in the chaos. Now, below them, in the Tyvet world that we are in right now, they had the three moon sisters. Each world has a recorder of history. Now, the three moon sisters, their job was to record and keep track of history through all the cycles and that. And they created the Sealies as their little recorders. So they would, like a voice recorder, going around recording the history and all that stuff, because you need to see all and record all. Now, I think we got the whole first, second, and third thing who came wrong. The first who came, in my opinion, was the Dragon King. He had entered the world from the Light Realm. And then he did the same thing the primordial one, created four shades of himself. And those were the purest of elements. The Hydro Dragon, the Dendro, like the Earth Dragon, the Fire Dragon, and the Wind Dragon. Earth, Wind, and Fire, the purest of elements. Now, all the other dragons below it would be the mixed elements, like Cryo, Dendro, stuff like that. And and Electro and other different mixes and combinations, creating unique elemental powers. And so then they had the lesser dragons, and then below that they had the creatures of the world, which were the elemental beings, like the Lockfolk and all the elemental creatures and animals that we see in many of the fish and stuff like that, and the things that were just made out of elemental energy, and the Bishop dragons and stuff like that. And the Sealies went around recording the history for the Moon Sisters. Now, the second who came was who we know as the Primordial One. And he came in and he wanted to learn the secret of the creation of life and everything. So he traversed the world as they know it in the Dragon Bishop era of Tyvet, and learned some stuff and fell in love with one of the Sealies. Now, this created a disturbance in the recording of history that resonated through the Moon Sisters, and he tried basically twisting their minds with like questions and stuff like that, and questioning the three Moon Sisters. Well, why this? Why that? Why that? And he learnt the secret formula of creating life and obtaining the power of the world. But the Moon Sisters, because of the confusion that he created, started fighting with each other, and they destroyed each other. Literally just destroyed each other. And the Sealies, with no one to report back to or be part of, kind of started to fade away. And the survivors of the Sealies made a contract with the Primordial, and we will stay and guide your creations as best as we can. But eventually they all just faded away to nothingness, because without the Moon Sisters, they were nothing. So the Primordial One went down, talked with the dragons, used some trickery, tricked the Dragon King into letting them drink from the primordial goblet and drink the primordial goo and the power. And he became the God King. So he then created four shades of himself, his own four elemental beings, who then created lesser elemental beings and went towards dragons, and somehow miraculously won. He beat them. He didn't kill them. He just like banished them. And that, and some of them may have died. One or two might have died, like the lesser dragons, but the greater dragons didn't die. They escaped. And so He created this, and then he creates his own creatures of the world, and he recreates the world. So now the third who came was the Dragon King, came back for vengeance. He's like, you know what? You destroyed my world. You destroyed my creations, my people. I want vengeance. And so they started fighting, and he had created a couple more elemental dragons and more elemental beings. And so you had these gods and dragons that were now ready to go to war. So Celestia steps in and says, "This will be the final war. You guys are going to use this to settle it. This will be called the Archon War, and after this, the winners will be given a trophy, which are the Gnosis, symbolizing their rule over the world. The Gnosis really doesn't hold much power except for just the rule. So they fought with each other, and the survivors of this war became the Archons. And the purest elemental powers of the Archons will always be the stronger Archons. So Zhongli, he is going to be one of the strongest because he's a pure element. He's Earth. You go to the Hydro folklore, she'll be more powerful because she's Hydro. And Venti will be more powerful because he's animal. And then the Pyro Archon will be stronger because she's pure. All the other ones, like A and that, and Boer, they're all going to be lesser elementals. Like and Cryo, they won't be as strong because they're not pure elemental powers. But Zhongli, the reason why he had dragon form, because he was actually one of the dragons that survived and became an Archon. And and the other Archons were survivors from the primordial side, but the rules were set by Celestia. The winners will become the rulers of their area, and that's it. We're only going to have this many Archons. Bam. So that's all set and fine. Now Rhine-Daughter comes along out of Conria and starts doing the same thing that the primordial one, starts researching and finding ancient texts and stuff like that left behind by the Seelie race and the races that came before, and discovered that she can create her own world. And that's what she tried to do. That's what the cataclysm was. She had used the abyssal powers and the primordial powers in an attempt to create her own world. She did not create the dragons. She had resurrected them. Now the dragons had their memory still intact, but now corrupt by the abyss, thanks to Rhine-Daughter. And Rhine-Daughter used it to control. She didn't create the life. She resurrected it and brought its shape, but did not give it consciousness. Its consciousness always exists. So she tried creating her own world. Celestia saw this as a big disturbance, came back in, and bam, knocked everyone down and said, you know what? This ends now. And that's how the whole entire cataclysm was. It was this Rhine-Daughter discovered that she could create her own world, and that's what she wanted to do. She wanted to recreate the world in her image, in her thoughts, and that's how she became gold. She became corrupt by the abyssal powers and utilized the primordial energies and the abyssal powers combined to try to create her own world and destroy the Archons, destroy the gods and stuff like that. And it failed miserably. Now we see the remnants of it, but that's how it goes. It was first Celestia, the Moon Sisters, and then everyone else after that was the dragons, the primordial one, dragon versus primordial one, round 2, Archon War. After that, Archons are settled. Rhine-Daughter discovers these powers through ancient texts, just tries to create her own world. Cataclysm, bam. Now we're going on because we're going to discover that this world is doomed. Like, it is doomed. It has been so depleted of everything and from war that without the introduction of us, and this is why Celestia didn't kill us but trapped us, because they have to introduce a new element to the world to prevent it from falling apart. Now our siblings are on a different path, we're on a different path. Which one of us two will become the new element that helps save this world from absolute destruction? Like, no new life will be formed unless one of us, and how the world will form, will it be a dark and dismal world, will depend on if our sibling wins. If we win, it will be a more happier, purer, peaceful world. But that's just my views and opinions. So I hopefully that some of this makes sense to you because I'm not very good at explaining stuff. But that's how I literally see the world and the lore in the game. So cheers. I'll catch you all on the flip side.